Hi, it's Ben Seong from Learn ASP. Step into our Q&A zone where the spotlight is on you and our extraordinary community. Thank you for sending in some of your most pressing questions, and today we'll make an effort to answer them. These are questions on health, on fitness, performance, body composition, as well as nutrition. 5 main pillars that we'll be focusing on. So whether you are taking a leisurely stroll or really focus on your device, I want you to enjoy this episode, take that information away and use it, because this will be information you can use for your best self. Enjoy the episode ahead.
Which protein powder is the best for recovery?
The best protein powder for recovery is based on the proteins that you lack within your diet. How does that sound? So whenever you take a protein powder, you need to understand, in my opinion, you need to understand firstly, the source of the protein powder, whether you're taking whey or a plant protein, is dependent on how well your gut can handle it. Most people do not tolerate whey protein very well because of, firstly, the quality of whey. Secondly, sometimes a whey protein that is not overly refined can have some lactose in there. And most people do not deal with lactose very well because they do not have lactase, which is an enzyme to break down lactose. On top of that, the gut environment, their microbiome is not optimal. So your microbiome actually produces lactase to break down lactose. So most people who has an optimal gut environment, you can actually tolerate lactose well. People nowadays who have a compromised or a subpar microbiome will not be able to tolerate lactose as well. And so when you take a whey protein, you would tend to bloat, you would tend to get gassy, you would tend to have protein farts, you break out in pimples, your body doesn't do well with it. Those are signs that you need to read. If you're taking a whey protein thinking that it's going to help you recover, in fact, what it does is it does the opposite. It actually causes your body to break down if your body reacts negatively towards it. That means you're intolerant to it. All right. If that's the case, switch to a plant-based protein. So usually you look for a plant-based protein, which is a variety of different pea proteins that is fortified with specific amino acids. Because plant proteins, majority of the time, are not complete proteins. You need essential amino acids to be added in. And so when you take a plant protein, that can be helpful. Some people, on the other hand, do not do well with plant proteins and can handle whey proteins instead. So like myself, for example, having myself tested, I don't do well with plant proteins and I do better with whey protein. So I'll look for a whey protein to help myself. Now, if you are concerned about body composition, that means if you're thinking, look, I want to keep staying lean, okay, or I want to get leaner, taking a workout or a workout protein post-workout, then you probably will need to look at an essential amino acid, an EAA. So an EAA blend that contains your amino acids is a great form of replenishing the amino acids within your system for recovery without causing too much of an insulin spike post-workout. That is if you are very concerned about body composition, because understand that the role of a protein shake as well will spike insulin. Now, insulin is great, like I said. It is whether you want to or you don't want to spike insulin. What insulin does is it stores sugar as glycogen within the muscle cells. Now, for someone who has a high body fat percentage already, they already have a lot of glycogen stored up in their system, in their muscle cells and in their fat cells, right? But if your muscles are saturated, let's say with glycogen, then your body can only store it in your fat cells. Now, your fat cells can expand. They're expandable. So even though your fat cells have glycogen, if your body keeps taking in excess sugars, your fat cells can always expand and excess sugars can be generated into there, all right? So if your muscle cells are already saturated, that means you are getting fatter and fatter and fatter throughout you're putting on a lot of fat, for example, then you don't want to be introducing a protein shake post-workout per se, because the role of a protein shake is to shuttle more glycogen into your muscle cells. If your muscle cells are saturated, that means it's full. Where else can it shuttle more glycogen into? It puts into the fat cells. So this is where a protein shake will only get you fatter post-workout. Okay, so it's your choice. If you wanted to do that and you went, I would take a little bit of glycogen stores, shuttle back into my muscles, and then I don't mind if 80% of the glycogen gets stored in my fat, so I'll put on some muscle and get a lot fatter. I don't mind that. Hey, by all means, if that's what you want, go for it. I just think that there is a point of diminishing returns where I rather majority of the glycogen go into my muscle cells for recovery and growth, not so much into my fat stores. Okay, so if that was the case, I would use a branched chain. Oh, sorry, branched chain. Essential amino acid, not branched chain. EA.
What is your opinion on bodybuilders not doing ab exercises in order to keep a tighter waistline, tighter waist?
Ab exercises don't necessarily keep a tighter waist. Depends on what sort of ab exercises you're talking about. Your waist size. Let's put it this way. Most bodybuilders have what you call a distended gut or a distended waistline. Especially nowadays, the modern day bodybuilders, they call them mass monsters, and so they have a sort of a distended waistline. A lot of that has been picked up by Arnie, as you're aware of, probably in the last 3 years when he, started pulling people out and saying you've got a big gut and you need to watch that gut when you pose. So I think bodybuilders nowadays are making a much bigger effort to draw in their waistline, not so much on working their abs, because for most people, their ab structure is already there. In fact, a lot of bodybuilders, you would ask them, they don't spend time working their abs and they will have abs, right? But what they need to practice is they need to work their transverse abdominis, which is the layer underneath, such as doing exercises such as vacuuming. So what that does is it actually holds your waistline in, right? Your transverse abdominis is like a belt and a belt that is built internally that helps to hold everything in. So in order to activate that effectively, they need to learn how to train that or to work that. That's the main thing. Now, a lot of bodybuilders also have a sort of a bubble gut because they are eating copious amounts of food. And I've mentioned this before. A lot of people say, yeah, it's growth hormone, it's whatever. Sure, growth hormone can add to that, because what it does is it helps increase the size of the organs itself. But on top of that, it is the copious amounts of foods that bodybuilders eat. So they may eat 8 meals a day, 10 meals a day, 6,000 calories. So if you're eating that much food every single day, you can't expect someone to hold their waistline in. Most of them will be bloated majority of the time because of the amount of food that they're taking. They're not digesting properly. A lot of bodybuilders have known to have really poor digestive function because of the copious amounts of food, but also because of steroids that they use that disrupt their gut function, the microbiome. As a result, they cannot digest foods effectively. So I think gut health is definitely one of the big things that a lot of modern day bodybuilders have started to adopt. They look for strategies on how to better their gut health, especially in the off season. Some of them, the off season, start to decrease their meals, not increase their meals. So they decrease their meals for a period of time to allow their gut to recover, repair before they load up again. So these are all strategies to heal the gut, and a lot of them are more educated on understanding why that is the case. So more bodybuilders nowadays want to have that X frame where they come in and they have a smaller gut, and obviously big quads, big shoulders, big chest, but they need to hold their gut in. So that is a mixture of practicing working their transverse abdominis, and then obviously watching their food intake so they don't overly push their gut out. Okay, it's not so much a function of working abs per se.
What would you recommend for pre-workout for strength and focus?
I would definitely, for me personally, caffeine. There's no doubt. I not necessarily, depending on the type of coffee. A slow drip coffee gives you a lot more caffeine than something that is fast, obviously, because caffeine is being extracted from the beans of the coffee. So if the water passes really fast, you're not extracting caffeine effectively. So a slow drip coffee would definitely have more caffeine than something that's just really, really fast. So the fallacy is, oh, if I drink coffee, there is caffeine. Not all coffees are the same in the concentration of caffeine. People need to understand this. And secondly, when you look at caffeine, it's how does your body actually detoxify caffeine? There are people who don't detoxify caffeine effectively. So when you take caffeine, these are the people, for example, that would have heart palpitations, and they don't do well with caffeine. So if you don't do well with caffeine or stimulants, stay away from it. You will need to upregulate your nervous system through training itself or an effective warm-up. But for those people who can actually handle caffeine, that's definitely a recommendation. I would say use caffeine. It is actually shown to extend life. Okay, so there are many things that caffeine actually does. Extension of life is definitely one of them. It actually helps to increase your pain threshold, and it also helps to increase your absolute strength. But let's say if you can't handle caffeine, what do you do? There are other supplements that can help. Nitric oxide is definitely one of them. You also can look at things like an acetyl L-carnitine. So we're looking at brain supplements right now, because understand that your brain is involved in upregulating your nervous system, your central nervous system. And as your nervous system upregulates, you can actually lift more. This recruits more muscle fibers. So anything to do with brain supplements would definitely help you in lifting more, in producing a better workout. So acetyl L-carnitine. Carnitine, this is the only type of carnitine that crosses the blood-brain barrier, is very effective in upregulating your nervous system. So you can take acetyl L-carnitine before you work out. You can also look at something like alpha-GPC, which is also effective in working and upregulating your nervous system, your brain system, increasing your focus, and that can also help you. So anything to do with brain supplements, that's going to be helpful. Anything to do with caffeine or increasing adrenaline, that's going to be helpful.
Thank you for watching our episode today. I hope that you have really taken away some great information and are able to use it to get better results. Make sure you join us in our next episode, and if you do have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and make sure that you subscribe and like. See you soon.